I'd like to introduce the next panel, Diana Adachi, Matthew Merle, and Rhett Powers. Diana Adachi was using the word blockchain before we even knew what it was. We thought initially when she started using it, it was a Lego game or something, building bricks or something. But blockchain, Diana Adachi started with that industry in that environment way before it became popular. You've heard from Matthew, you know him well. You know Rhett, you know him well, so I'll let them take it away.
Well, thank you. And as you were with me this morning when I ambushed Karim. We were sitting at breakfast this morning and we decided to throw another wrench in the works.
Oh no.
Yes. So we all found that we had something in common, which was opera. And so we're going to talk about opera today. Is that all right?
We're going to sing our answers. Diane's going to start.
I'm teasing. No, we're going to talk about blockchain and global security. You guys want to introduce? You haven't been up yet, so you got to.
Can we talk about opera?
How it fits on a blockchain?
I don't know anything about opera, so it'd be a short conversation. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So Diana Adachi, and I'm a partner with True North Impact. It's a firm that we have a fund that focuses on publicly traded ESG companies. And what we are driving towards is changing the whole ESG landscape, because I think a lot of what we see out there, and you hear a lot about this in the press, around greenwashing. And what we're trying to do is push the envelope forward by saying, hey, if you look at these companies, look to see where they're actually making a difference. So our fund is all about showing, we call science-based KPIs, where we are showing how much CO2 you save when you put money in this fund. So that's the big part for us. Prior to, and this is a very newly formed partnership. I joined them about 2 years ago. Prior to that, I've been, as Karim had talked about, blockchain. And I'll be able to talk a little bit about this further in the 2 sessions from now. I was a global lead for Accenture in blockchain back in around 2014. And at that time, I'd say that the firm really didn't have a whole lot of presence in blockchain. As a matter of fact, most, I think, didn't really want to touch it. I was lucky to be situated in Silicon Valley and had an opportunity to look at, find, and then to be able to do due diligence on the company, and ultimately Accenture put money into Ripple. But I had the great pleasure of being able to see a number of industries, from oil and gas to tech to pharma to the music industry, and talk to executives about what this is. And I'd say to a lot of people, in talking in a room like this, half of the people, there was this look of, oh my God, and fear, because they could see what this could potentially mean for them. And so we would go through different use cases of how they could think about it. And so that was probably the most exciting time. And fast forward, today I sit on 2 different companies on their boards. One is has a platform, a blockchain platform, company called Cambiatus, and we've presented that on the GIC last year. Their platform is to help underserved communities, and I'll talk a little bit about that as in a use case. And the other is a company called Commit Good, and they have a philanthropic blockchain platform using crypto as a means for donation. So really interesting times. The whole thing with blockchain for me, and what got me into it, is I'd always been in payments and looking at innovation in payments, particularly in the underserved markets. So when Bitcoin, started to look at Bitcoin in 2012, 13, I saw how much of a game changer that is, and what the underlying technology, what the possibilities could be. So it's really exciting, and love this topic. So
Matthew, you want to introduce?
I'll just say managing partner.
And that
But
establishes.
I introduced myself earlier. So.
That establishes it right there. I am Rhett Powers. I write for Forbes, and I run a company called Accoutability, Inc. So I'm in the executive coaching and leadership space. So I'm going to ask the questions today because I'm trying to learn. So let's define, we have an online audience today, and we do have some new people in this afternoon. When we say blockchain and global security, what does that mean?
Do you want me to start?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So think of global security. It's all about the connectedness that we all have as individuals, as entities globally, and that dependency that we have for our survival. So broad terms, food, healthcare, climate change, communities. I mean, some of these are themes that we've heard. So that's really when I think about global security. And then on the blockchain side, I think the key thing with blockchain, everybody needs to know, and it was in your book, certainly, it's an e-commerce platform. It's a transactional platform. And if you look at any one of those particular topics, all of them can be facilitated. The processes can be facilitated through the use of blockchain. And the good thing about blockchain is it's about creating ecosystems, creating communities. And when we are...
And transparency too as well?
Transparency. I mean, the four, just quickly, we'll go into different aspects of it, but there's four specific areas or attributes of blockchain. So the way to think about it, it's a ledger. It's a ledger, just like any other ledger that you know, but what makes it unique is the information that's written to that ledger is already validated. There's call it consensus mechanism, but it's validated. It's transparent to everybody that's using it. It is what they call mutable. It's basically you can't edit it. And then the information is distributed across a number of different nodes. So it's no one person owns it. So with that transparency, with it being validated, with it being permanent, and no one owns it, it creates what we call a trustless, meaning you don't have to worry about trust. So today, if I was to do business with you, you have your own ledger of transactions. I have my own ledger of transactions. I trust mine, you trust yours, but we don't necessarily trust each other's.
Right.
Now we have an opportunity, we have this wonderful platform, and there are different types of blockchains that we could use in which we can use to facilitate that transaction. So that's sort of simplified. I'm simplifying the whole technology, but that's to me that's there's a lot of power in that, and so that's.
So when you talk about security, though, I mean that explains the blockchain, but how does it make data secure? How does it make information? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So again, just to come back to that piece of global security, when we are thinking about things like food or like healthcare, the information that for example, we're in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of the supply chain that went around with respect to vaccinations, around masks, all of those things, it wasn't coordinated. People didn't know where they were, how much. To me, that pandemic shone a light on a lot of different institutions that were not functioning. And I think that you have this type of technology where you can see trade, and there's examples of this today where companies are stepping up and using the technology. The other thing I have to say, a lot of this is, by the way, it's about we call a permissioned blockchain, meaning that people that are working together, you know who the partners are. It's not anonymous, different from Bitcoin. You know who the partners are, and they have to be agreed upon to be working together.
No, I thought that was good. Thank you.
I passed that one.
Come on, Matthew. Come on.
No, I think it's good. I mean, I think so. The opposite of secure would be insecure, and you sort of say in your life and in the things you do, when do you not feel secure? And then how can blockchain take away those feelings of insecurity? And I like the way you sort of started talking about Maslow's pyramid, hierarchy of needs, shelter, food, health. And I think blockchain can positively impact all of those things. But there's many ways in which we feel insecure. Everyone in the room is an investor. You know when someone comes to you and gives you a pitch and you can't check it, you don't know if it's true, you feel insecure. You've got to do due diligence. How would we clarify the claims of entrepreneurs with immutable public ledgers would be an example. Or, you go and get LASIK surgery and the doctor says, I've done it 1,000 times and I never screwed anyone's eyeball up. Is it true? How do you know? How would you check? The information is hidden. You don't have access. It's not transparent. We don't know the outcomes of most surgeons' work. So you take a risk. You're insecure. You hope it works out for the best. And I'm just using these as examples. The point is, wherever there is insecurity, transparency, immutability, portability are beneficial. And that's around information, content, transactions, actions. And so as we get into this, what I liked about the way Diana started was that she cast the broad net, because you're the moderator and we can go any way you want. We can talk about war, we can talk about investing, we can talk about breaches. And I think in 2 steps or less, we can prove blockchain is beneficial in every aspect of security.
So great. I think that's a good segue, because I wanted to sort of dig into, because I think some of the things that most businesses struggle with, big or small or medium size, doesn't matter. That is data, and that is using data and storing data and making it safe. What are some things that company leadership needs to pay attention to in terms of security? Where does blockchain to me as an entrepreneur and a CEO is hard to understand how it implicates, or how I use it in my business. So how do CEOs and leaders need to think about blockchain? And we're not all in the space that you're working in. Some of us are in physical products, some of us are in services. Yeah. So how does it apply to those types of businesses?
Can I have a go at that one?
Sure.
So before you answer that question, let's just look at where we are today. So where we are today is that all information is permeable, all institutions are being breached, and all data is being robbed and shared, and it happens every day. Target is breached, Yahoo is breached, Bank of America is breached, the US government is breached. We don't have secure data. And why don't we? Because to some extent, and there's more to it than just this, the internet sits on top of TCP/IP, and TCP/IP was not designed to be a secure protocol. Scientists sharing data, DARPA, MIT, Stanford, trusted each other, and they didn't think that what they were creating was going to be used by everyone in the world. Some of them thought it was just professors sharing packets of information campus to campus. Maybe the military thought it was a backup plan, but no one thought every industry, every business was going to use it. And so TCP/IP does not really have security embedded in it. It also doesn't have solutions around identity and trust embedded in it. And so, and obviously software is built by individuals, and individuals are fallible, and some of them engineer backdoors into the software they write, or they accidentally leave a hack or a breach or an open door in the backside, or there's a gap between people's work. There's a lot of ways it happens. So bad actors are very sophisticated at figuring out how to leverage those breaches. So that's where we are. We have a world in which all of our data, all of our corporations, most of our governments, and almost all of the transaction flows of information, identity, people, content, value is insecure. Period. Right. We don't have to go any further in a way, because now the burden's on them to get better. Okay, so we got a gift. We got a gift. The world got a gift 11 years ago, because some anonymous person, Satoshi Nakamoto, solved some fundamental challenges of security, because they wanted to create a peer-to-peer electronic cash system that was distributed, secure, and had better identity built embedded in it. And the only way to do that was to progress the notion of security. And so that's what we've got. Diana explained how it works. You know, one packet of data is bolted onto the prior packet of data and can't be corrupted later. That's sort of the chain notion. And it's an advance. Is it nirvana? Is it the end of innovation? No, of course not. It's the best we have, and it's better than what we've got. So if you ever hear an enterprise executive, hospital CEO, anyone say, I don't need this, point the finger at them. You know, you're not doing a good enough job, get better. And that's why in 2 dots we can say blockchain progresses the dialogue, because it's better. It really is. It's immutable. It can be. It doesn't have to be. These are design knobs. Immutable, not immutable, sharded, not sharded. You know, I could keep going. Transparent, not transparent. These are design knobs on the software. Bitcoin is, everything's at 11, right? Fully immutable, fully secure, fully transparent. Takes a lot of computing power. You know, it's all at 11.
Right.
And we don't need everything to be at 11. So I'm saying a lot, but the point that I'm just trying to emphasize right now is the world is so screwed up around security that no one is on a safe platform to criticize anyone else. And blockchain is clearly a technical advance around security, but something better may come along too.
So how does the startup CEO, how does the small business that's in retail or you know, makes cakes, it doesn't matter, how do they think about this technology on a practical level? Like how do these types of businesses use it?
So I think for startups, for a lot of them, they're going to be working. They're partners, people that they do trade with. And generally, a lot of them are going to be larger companies. They're already working with this technology. It's already out there. The thing is that you can't see it, you can't touch it, so you don't even know that when you're working with a certain company, that they may already be using that as part of their process.
Okay.
Like supply chain is one of to me, the best use case for this technology. Supply chain, the biggest problem is that you've got 3 different things happening. You've got documentation, so purchase order, invoice, payment. You have the physical movement of goods, and then you have the movement of money. And to get those 3 things lined up is a real task.
Real task, right.
And so for a lot of companies that, you know, this is something that as I said, when I was talking to a lot of these executives, that they start to realize that the inefficiencies within their systems, it is so costly. And I'll give an example. Walmart globally is using track and trace, and they're able to remove potential foodborne illnesses that would take them 7 days, now down to 2 seconds, because they have the ability to do some sort of track and trace, and they have it on a blockchain, and they know what's happening there. You've got big pharmas that realize that there's a lot of counterfeit drugs out there. And so, again, with IoT, Internet of Things, these sensors, they're able to determine the origination of those drugs and where they are, because a lot of times these drugs are expired, but they don't get off the market. They're out in some other country. So that's a problem. So, I mean, there's just all these different examples of use cases where it makes a huge difference.
So as investors, what do you guys, I mean, when you think about blockchain and this technology and the companies that are coming up, what are you intrigued by? What's piquing your interest in terms of companies that are really doing interesting things with this and that you're keeping your eye on, or maybe even investing in?
Yes. So you know, I used to hang out a little bit with Steve Jobs because he was on the Gap board. I was there to strategy and marketing for Gap, and my CEO was on the Apple board, Mickey Drexler, and sometimes we had to prepare things, and I heard him say things, and this is something that really stuck. And in the world of innovation, value is created when we meet the needs and unmet needs of people, and we wow them with the ability to do what they need done, even if they didn't understand they need it done. That was sort of his general philosophy, right? It was sort of like, Don't ask them what they want because they don't know, but if we bring them something that is accomplishing what their needs, met or known or unknown, met or unmet in a superior way, value will get unlocked. And so going back to your question, I think that we're talking about security. So, generically, the greatest value will be unlocked where the things are most broken around security and the most value is at stake. The problem is large enterprise ecosystems take a long time to change, 10, 15, 20 years. So I'm absolutely agreeing that the food ecosystem is broken. We get E. coli in the lettuce. They can't figure out where it came from. They have to destroy all the lettuces in the system. That's one of the examples that Walmart used to get their track and trace off the ground. So begin with that thought. If you're an entrepreneur in the room, start off with that thought. Where is security most broken? Where is the value most, where is the value, in the current system? And then it would be good to know what you can make change fastest.
Are there some examples of that? Where it's broken?
Yes, well, it's broken everywhere. I already established that. So as an example, banks have mission-critical data, and the data's being hacked all the time. You get the same emails I get. Your credit card data was tapped into, and we anticipate your credit card is on the black web, right? You get those emails, I get those emails, everyone else does. So that's a great use case of if we could secure credit card data in a more secure way. Or conversely, if we could know when it had been tampered with, we'd do a better job of securing it. So it's just an example. My point of this is it's everywhere, it's ubiquitous. What's the best use case? Ukraine, Russia, and Bitcoin is the best use case today. Ultimately, the security we fear the most is the death of ourselves, our wives, our spouses, our children. That is ultimate security. We get killed. And here's a thought, scary thought. You all landed at Lisbon Airport. You all went to the hotel. You went to Sintra. You came to the airport. You passed houses, multi-family apartment buildings, universities. In all of that space that you went past, there's 10 million people living. That's the population of Portugal. Imagine that all 10 million of them drop what they're doing right now, and walked out of those buildings and deserted the buildings. That's just what happened in the Ukraine. 10 million people are displaced from their places of residence. The whole of Portugal just left their buildings. What happened to each of them? We're talking about security. This is what happened. Diana, darling, we've got to go. We've got to go now. Get the kids. I'll get the car ready. Get in the car. What can we pack? Don't tell the kids we're leaving. Just grab a backpack and put some clothes in it. We're going now. I'll see if I can get the icon that grandmother gave us. I've got a couple of gold coins. We'll put them in the backpack. Get in the car. We've got to go now. Let's go. So now we're scrambling. We're getting in the car. Where should we hide the gold coins? I don't know. I've never done this. Do you know, Diana? Where should we put the gold coins? Let's hide them under the back seat, under the kids. Now we're driving. Crap. The roads are blocked with traffic. We've got to desert the car. What can we take? Well, a lot less than we put in the car. What are we going to do with the kids? You're going to have to carry little Joey, or I'm going to have to carry Joey. What should we do with the gold coins? Let's hide them in your back pocket. What's going to happen? Well, we've already abandoned most of our possessions. We will get stopped by the man with the gun, and we will lose the gold. And even if we don't lose the gold, before we get to Berlin, Poland, Stockholm, some kind person will take everything we have to go in the back of the lorry with the 50 other people to cross the border illegally, right? And if that wasn't bad enough, the Ukrainian bank just got bombed and the data center crashed. And if that wasn't bad enough, Visa and MasterCard locked down the Russian-issued cards so we can't use them. And the Russians just blocked the Ukrainian payment system so we can't use that. That's all gone too, okay? And have we seen this before? Yes. The Golden Horde, the sons and grandsons of Genghis Khan, rushed through Russia, Ukraine, and killed 6% of the population, and they all were on the road. And yes, it happened in the Second World War too. and a whole ethnicity deserted everything and lost everything, right? And it happened in Syria. It happens all of the time. Bitcoin would have saved some of the value for every Ukrainian if they had had any value. Lots of Ukrainians don't. Bitcoin is a secure way to put some value somewhere else in case that moment happens to you. So I know that's a long example, but you know, we're mostly people that don't really believe that's ever going to happen to us. And in addition, we have pretty secure systems. 5 billion people in the world are watching Ukraine and saying, but for the grace of God, there go I. If you're in Venezuela, if you're in Zimbabwe, if you're in Nigeria, if you're, frankly, if you're in Latvia, Belarus, Romania, Bulgaria, you're saying right now, but for the grace of God, there go I. And that's why blockchain really matters, because we are worrying about fundamental Maslow hierarchy of needs security. So I actually do, I'm a reforming corporate strategy consultant too. I don't really care about bank security or healthcare security in the same way that I care about people security these days. And blockchain is helping at least 5 billion people who have zero security.
Comes back to, I think, what Kareem, you said, we are, if we have our health, we have our family, friends, you have everything. And if we can't act as a community and be strong and help each other, I mean, to me, this is the thing behind this technology. Lots of communities are dependent on this technology that we take for granted because we have so much at our fingertips. We're very, very fortunate, but there's a lot that aren't. And I think, to your point, I mean, that's very, very much the case.
And I went to the extreme case, which is the family is threatened with the ultimate loss of security. But just stepping back one step from that, well, in Greece,
Galaxy
they woke up on a
S9
Monday
disconnected.
and they'd been expropriated of the value they had in the bank account on the Friday. And yes, Harish, it happened in India too, where they suddenly froze all of the large denomination rupee bills. And in Argentina, it's happened at least 3 times in our lifetime that you woke up and all of the money went to zero. And literally, remember the Weimar Republic and the pile of paper money in the wheelbarrow?
Right.
Well, that happens in Argentina and Venezuela and so on all the time. Yeah. Talk about inflation. It's like you have to get the child to run to the store with the money because the prices will go up between the moment you receive it and the moment you spend it.
It's the only place in the world you can take bags of money out.
Yeah.
So I know we're short on time, but I wanted to get to some questions from the audience. So if we have anybody that has a question. Yes. Oh.
We are close to time.
Okay, yeah, so I've heard all the benefits of blockchain, and I'm just curious, and obviously you both are experts in how it works, maybe to throw a little cold water on the sector, what are some of the areas of development, some of the issues you see right now that are preventing us from realizing, actualizing some of the benefits that you're proposing now?
And so it's still, as we know, this technology, it's been around, at least 11 years, right? 2008.
Yes.
But there's been continual changes. There still needs to be more change in how these platforms operate, but that will only get better. Directionally, we're seeing a lot of these things I was talking about in 2014 are now in production. And it's, back then, these were just ideas. And so I think that is what you're going to see more of over the coming years.
If I could pick one answer, Mitch, it's corporate inertia. Oftentimes I use examples, right? I like to use examples to try and make things real. Most of my examples are from the 1990s. It's true. I mean, I worked on healthcare, improving client outcomes for Kaiser Permanente in 1995. And at that time, we didn't know which doctors kill patients. And we still don't. We still do not know which of the doctors kill the patients at a higher rate than the other doctors, and not all doctors are good doctors, right? I was on the California Education Standards Board in 1990 with Larry Stupsky of Charles Schwab, when we tried to establish standards so we would understand which teachers deliver good results in California schools. We still don't know, you know. So I worked for PG&E when we tried to take out $1 billion in the 1990s to help them reinvest in infrastructure. They still haven't done it, and they burned down most of California. So I use these examples because that's called corporate inertia, right? So the challenges are not unknown challenges. You know, the permeability of banks, the highly inefficient way of doing things, so they can't pay interest on deposits. You know, all these things are well known, and they are 30-year, 40-year conversations. So it's really about corporate inertia. It's really about corporate inertia. And the other thing, just to throw some fire on this, I also work with large corporations where we slow down innovation. I did those projects, and the best way of doing it was to work with the regulators to create regulatory uncertainty, regulatory moats, and make it very hard for the small, innovative companies to progress. And that's going on across the board right now. Right now. So.
On a positive note.
Thank you. Matthew. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Rhett.